Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out on this horrible night. Welcome to this meeting of Overview and Scrutiny. For the benefit of those watching on our YouTube channel, members of the committee are present in the chamber, and these members will be voting on proposals this evening. Other members of the council who are also present in the chamber or participating via MS Teams can take part in any discussions, ask questions, but cannot vote. Your attention is drawn to agenda item 1, which sets out the guidance on how meetings will be conducted. Before we start with the formal business, we will confirm attendance of voting members by doing a roll call. Thank you, Alison.
This is just to confirm voting numbers. If I call your name, just confirm that you're present. Councillor Athol.
Yes, here.
Councillor Bell. Councillor Bishop.
Present.
Councillor Brown.
Present.
Councillor Cannon.
Present.
We've had apologies from Councillor Chapman being substituted by Councillor Rhodes.
Here.
Councillor Cope.
Present.
Councillor Hickmott.
Good evening.
Councillor Hood.
Present.
Councillor Hoskins.
Present.
Councillor Hudson.
Present.
Councillor King.
Present.
Councillor McDermott.
Present.
Councillor Oakley.
Present.
Councillor Palmer.
Wendy's given apologies. She is on her way, though.
Thank you. Councillor Tanner.
Present.
Councillor Thornywell. Sorry, Councillor Thornywell sent apologies. We have 15 voting members present in the chamber at the moment, Chair.
Very much. I'd like to invite the officers to introduce themselves, starting with Paul. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Paul Word and I'm the Head of Finance and Section 151 Officer.
Good evening, everyone. Jill Fox, Corporate Policy and Communities Manager.
Good evening, Damien Roberts, Chief Executive.
Alison Paris, Democratic Services.
Amanda Riley, Principal Accountant.
John O'Reilly, Financial Services Manager.
Linda Hibbs, Head of Housing and Regulatory Services.
Thank you. And we've also got some officers online. Would they like to make themselves known? Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Chair. It's Robert Stiles, Director of Street Seeing, Leisure and Technical Services. And I'm joined this evening by a colleague from Tunbridge Wells, Dan Hutchins, who's the Mid-Kent Procurement Partnership Manager.
Good evening all. Yeah, as Robert says, I'm Dan Hutchins. So I'm the Procurement Manager for TMT Procurement Services.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeremy Whitaker. I'm the Economic Development and Special Projects Manager.
Thank you. And Jason.
Good evening, I'm Jason O'Brien, Housing Improvement Manager.
Thank you. I think that's everyone accounted for. Okay, we'll go on to apologies. We've had apologies from 2 people, I think.
Just to confirm, we've had apologies from Councillor Chapman and Councillor Thornywell, and I've noted the position regarding Councillor Palmer.
And we've got a substitute for Councillor Chapman.
Councillor Rose is substituted for Councillor Chapman.
Thank you. That sorts out number 3. Number 4, any declarations of interest?
Chair, just for transparency purposes, there's a number of capital reviews that will send hopefully money towards the Leisure Trust of the trust.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. Okay, we've gone to 5, the minutes. The minutes are attached at pages 13 to 18 of the meeting held on 13th of November 2025. Can I assume they're a correct record? I'll agree to that. Thank you. Are there any executive decisions called in?
I'll confirm that there weren't.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to the exciting bit. Number 7, revenue estimates. Quite Paul to present these. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. The report gives this committee a chance to review the detailed estimates for both the revised estimates for 25-26 and the forward estimates for 26-27. They can be found in the Annex 1 pack that you have got. It's quite a large document, and we have the tendency to produce it separately to make sure that it doesn't bulk out the agenda too much. I'm going to take the report slightly out of order. I'm going to do it in a time basis. So I'm going to look at the revised estimates for 25-26 first. In February last year, we set a estimate of just over £20 million, which ended up being funded by grants, business rates, and council tax, and allowed for a small contribution of just over £20,000 to the General Revenue Reserve. During the year, things have changed. Members have approved additional estimates. We've had increased income that has been raised, and some grants income has been adjusted. The major changes to the estimates have been detailed within a table shown at paragraph 9.1 on page 28 of your papers. Please note that some of the increases in expenditure have been met by reserves that the council has set aside over the years. So therefore, there should be no direct impact on the bottom line for the authority. The resulting movement that the contribution for the General Revenue Reserve is now going to increase by about 488,000. So it will take up to about just over £500,000 for the financial year. I'm going to move on to the 26-27 estimates now, but I'm going to start off with what is considered to be the main change for the council, and that's the outcome of the fair funding review. Now, Sharon, Neil, and I have been going on about this for years. It's finally come, which has been rather interesting. So I'm going to explain what the changes have been, both under the fair funding review and what's been known as the business rates reset. The provisional settlement was announced by the government just before Christmas on the 17th of December. Lovely present for us accountants just before Christmas. And what it did confirm was a more simplified method. They say it's a simplified method. I'm still trying to get my head around it at the moment. But basically for this council, our government support now will now predominantly be from revenue support grant and the business rates retained income. Other grants previously received covering areas, but for some areas of the business rates income under Section 31 grants, New Homes Bonus, the National Insurance grant that we received, and some elements of the Homelessness Prevention grant and the funding guarantee have now been rolled into the larger chunk of revenue support grant. The headlines for the settlement looked at the comparisons for the funding with 24-25, which included some elements of additional business rates. This comparison showed that the council received the second largest reduction in core spending any of the councils in England. There was only one more, Harborough in Leicestershire, 15% reduction. Now, core spending itself is made up of business rates, revenue support grant, and council tax. Now, whilst the government can control business rates and the revenue support grant, it can't really control council tax. But what it does, it assumes that they know what you're going to do. So what they do is they allow for a maximum increase on your council tax based on the referendum amounts, which I'll be coming to later on, and they'll be allowing for an increase in your tax base. So they're basically saying, we know how much you're going to build and we know how much you're going to bill. Can be a bit of a problem. So moving back to the support we get from the government, when comparing it to the current financial year, the amounts provided within the settlement cover the next 3-year period up to 28-29. Our funding has dropped, and it's dropped by 9.8% over those 3 years. To put that in financial context, that's a drop from now 28-29 of just under £900,000, £995,000. Cumulatively, as we're having it stepped over 3 years, it's £1.5 million over the next 3 years. We'll lose a sizable amount of money. The final settlement will be announced in February, and whilst it's unlikely that the figures for 26-27 will change, there could be further changes made to 27-28 and 28-29. I'll come on to some of the reasons for that later on, but it's mainly around business rates on that particular issue. Including the settlement of fair funding, retained business rates makes up nearly half of the government support we get. The current system underwent a reset, meaning that all the gains that we've had over recent years have now been rolled into our baseline. All the money we received from Panatoni Park has been rolled into our baseline now. They've reset it. Due to these changes, the Kent pool that we used to be members of, the Kent authorities decide to basically disband the pool. There is a significant amount of risk not knowing where we are going to be and what the reset was going to be. And a decision had to be taken, ironically, in September to either say we were going to carry on with the pool or not. So we took the decision at the present time to withdraw from the pool system. Having said that, we are keeping an eye on how things are going, and we may decide to reapply for a pool in future years. Just saying on in the report, I mentioned about the fact we are due to complete and submit an estimated on our business rates on what we're expected to bill and collect. At the time of writing the report, we were still in the process of preparing those figures. I can now say that we've actually completed the report and returned it. We've taken the decision to actually place ourselves exactly on our baseline. We're marginally above it, not by much, but we've taken the decision at the current time we're going to place ourselves at the levels, partly for cash flow purposes. We keep hold of the money for a bit longer, and it's a wise thing to do. What's not included in that estimate, I would hasten to add though, is any increases above that baseline. So at the moment, there are some properties in the borough that are currently unvalued by the valuation. Tesco's at Panatoni Park being one. The properties at the 2020 roundabout, the Click properties, they haven't been valued. And there's one over at Kings Hill at the moment that was taken out of rating and is currently waiting revaluation at the present time. What that should mean is, if we've got it right, and we are talking about large sums of money here, we should get more money from that. But the share we will get from that, just to give an illustration, every £1 million we get extra above our baseline, we retain £280,000. And that's because the government has decided to set tiers on our level, depending on what the level is, on what money you have to hand over to. Before I move on to the detail of the estimates for 26-27, as is normal, the government has announced a referendum or capping limits for council tax and council tax increases. Tunbridge and Malling being a district council, this has been set at the maximum of either 3% or £5, whichever is greater. Fire authorities, it's a similar level. Counties, it's 5%, and the police get lots of money independent. 5% is for county. The referendum amount is 5%. Referendum is 5%. And I think the police, I think it's about £13 they're allowed to put it up by. So moving on to the estimates, these have been jointly prepared by the services and finance staff, and I'd like to pass my thank on to both the directors and my team to getting them done. And they've been reviewed by both the management team and informal cabinet prior to coming to this committee. The estimates currently show a decrease of just under £4.5 million when you're comparing like with like. But that's primarily because we haven't completed all the reserve movements that we're looking to do in the forthcoming weeks. The details of the estimates are detailed within section 10 of the report on pages 28 to 30 of your agenda pack. But I'd like to highlight one particular area, which is around pensions. We have to have our pension fund, Kent-wide one, revalued once every 3 years, and they then break it up into the individual chunks for the individual authorities. Firstly, our contribution rate that we make on the employee side of things has reduced, good news. Unfortunately, though, our level of deficit on the current fund has broadly stayed the same overall, and we are still in deficit, I think, by about £2.5 million. The actual game. I'd like to point out the assets are 105 million, so we're not that far off. But we have to pay a contribution to top up that deficit. Now, previously, the actuaries gave us the option of getting rid of that as quickly as possible, i.e. by the next revaluation, 3 years. But because of local government reorganisation, they're very much aware that different districts around the county are likely to take different approaches. So they offered everybody the chance to go to 8 years. What that does, it reduces our contribution down from £1.5 million in the revised estimate, 425,000. Taken that option in order to give the council more money for the time being. Moving on to the other areas of the estimates, as with normal, we are including a contribution to the capital reserves in both 25-26 and 26-27 to pay for the capital programme. And Donna will be briefing you on that later on. This leads on to the MTFS and potential reserve movements. I'm busy finalising that at the moment. It's been quite difficult to actually make sure that we've got everything right, particularly following what's potentially could happen after the third year of the settlement. Now, I know under local government reorganisation, we may not be here. However, as 151 officer, I have to maintain that we are a going concern irrespective of what happens with local government reorganisation, i.e. the 10-year MTFS and the targets within that remain consistent as it stands. The final reserve movements will be that will be looked at the Cabinet over the next forthcoming months, and that will be provided to Cabinet for their meeting on the 10th of February for final approval. So before I offer to answer any questions with Amanda's help, because she's the one who knows a lot of the detail, I just want to highlight a couple of risks on the estimates being presented. Firstly, the change on fair funding has affected everybody in the country. We lost out, other authorities gained, but there is a chance that those, whilst we hit hard in percentage terms, £1 million, yes, it's sizable for us, but there are some that have had severe material changes to their overall funding. The concern is that they could lobby hard with the government and ask for additional money, and it's mainly the metropolitan boroughs that are likely to do that. So there could be some changes further down the line. It will be interesting to see how they're going to justify it, but there is always that possibility. From the outcome of the settlement, there is a clear expectation from the government that councils are expected to increase their council tax to the absolute maximum you can do. Our core funding, if you look at our core spending assessment from last year to next year, it goes up only because they are assuming you will put the council tax up each year by the maximum. I'm now going to mention the R word. The impact of reorganisation on local government is likely to affect the council massively due to pressures, both financially in the longer term and resource-wise. Officers are going to be stretched two ways to ensure that we are providing both the statutory requirements for ongoing service for public and insurance governance arrangements are upheld. Finally, as always, there's always a risk of the forecast and the estimates are open to economic factors beyond our control. We had COVID 5 years ago. We had the bank rates back in 2007, all of which were beyond our control and we could do very little about. Amanda and I will now be happy to take any questions on the revenue estimates before asking members to consider to recommend the budget onto Cabinet for their consideration next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That's great. First of all, I'd like to invite Matt to, if he'd like to comment in lieu of Martin, and then I'll go through the book chapter by chapter.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Martin Coffin tonight. Obviously, with Martin's recovery from his accidents, there's some evenings in which he's able styling and some evenings in which he's not. But he's making great progress. I should start there, and we look forward to seeing him back soon. Paul has covered an awful lot of what I was going to say, and I won't prolong this as much as I normally do. But I just want to dwell on the settlement that we got. Not because it's good news, far from it, but just to emphasise the scale of the challenge that we face. As there are over 300 local authorities in the country, and we are number 2, the second worst, in terms of the reduction that the government is expecting us to take. Now, given the methodology that was used, it's kind of like a backhander's compliment, really, which is we think you're capable of continuing your good work in order, and you don't need as much support from us. But actually, as Paul has described, it's a significant reduction in our spending power. And I go back to something I said at Overview and Scrutiny, General Purposes last night. This is, if we thought we've had austerity before, this is austerity on steroids. And for Tunbridge and Moorland Borough Council, and we're going to have to take some very difficult decisions. Now, fortunately, we've spoken about this before. We've spoken about it for many years. We have anticipated the worst. Both Paul, Amanda and Donna and their predecessors have been very clear about this. And we've always backed that up. And so the preparation that has been put into the revenue estimates that we're considering today have kind of looked at this worst case scenario option, really. That's and therefore we knew that this was a version that we'd have to put together. But I just don't think we should forget that, because when you then add on the costs, the unknown costs of reorganisation onto this, actually we've got a big issue with our major source of income and a big issue with what's likely to be our major source of expenditure, and yet we've got to continue running all the services that we do on a day-to-day basis. Chair, I'll leave it there, but obviously I can pick up questions that are appropriate.
Thank you very much. Right, so I'll begin with the draft revenue estimates, and we'll start with the staffing overheads and democratic costs. I'm going to be quite pedestrian about this and sort of go through slowly, because I think people might pick up things as I go. So, right, anyone got anything on the front page? No. Right. Has anyone got anything on that section? Right, okay. We go to the purple ones, Chief Executive. And was there anything on that? No. Okay. Director of Central Services. Lime green. Very nice. No. It's a bit of a deathly hush. I hope you've all read them. I didn't remind you, but right, planning and housing. The next one. Anyone got anything on that? Okay. Street scene and leisure. We're on SSLTS1. Have you got it on your phone, Sarah? That's really cool. Have you got it on your phone? That's really cool, isn't it? It must be quite small. Right, has anyone got anything on the leisure? No. Right. So is that done then? Come on, I must have some comments. They put in so much work. Right, Sarah.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for all the hard work, because I know how difficult it is at budget time. The one thing that I have sort of given a heads up with my KCC hat on is the fact that KCC are desperate for money too. And one of the things that they are seeking to take from all district and borough councils is on-street parking. So I'm just giving you a heads up that a demand of some kind will be coming your way. Thank you.
Answer more than the question. On-street parking, it's down to the county council if it wishes to take it back. I'm sure Robert will correct me, but if they do, it's effectively cost neutral for us. It's not the same. That's not the same across all districts. Some are winners, some are losers. For us, we're sort of in the middle. However, there is a 2-year lead-in period to do that. So under the current reorganisation timetable, we'll be reorganised together in 2 years' time. So I would suggest that if KCC wish to do that, it's completely meaningless. I would also contend, and I've made this point to anyone at KCC, current and former, who wishes to listen about this, which is actually in practical terms, it's complete nonsense, because at the moment we have civil enforcement officers who patrol on street and off street, because we are responsible for parking enforcement and on street under the current arrangements, and off street we own most of the car parks. Yet we'd have the case where we'd have two sets of civil enforcement officers, one doing on street and one doing off street. Civil enforcement officers who are responsible for off street, i.e. the ones that are employed by us, couldn't actually do the on street work, even though they're walking straight past a contravention. And to me, that's just complete nonsense. So my firm view, even though it doesn't matter for us in a financial sense, is that from a practical point of view, this is just something that the county council shouldn't do. But we've heard this talks about for years and years. Somebody in the KCC finance department seems to think it's a good idea, but usually when someone sensible decides to think about it from a practical perspective, it doesn't go anywhere. And I would make the same argument if they decide to pursue it this time round. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hood.
And usually I'm in complete agreement with Councillor Borton on that. It makes absolutely no sense either. And the figures, when I looked at the figures are so small in terms of, so there's no gain to be had. Obviously that isn't reflected elsewhere. I've just got on was it SSLTS 12. The notes next to it. The figure relating to building repairs expenditure and the slippage of the repairs to the roof at Tunbridge Farm Pavilion. I'm surprised that isn't being done as a matter of urgency, because I thought that the condition of the pavilion there was really needed to be addressed. So is there a reason for that being pushed back to 2027-28? So I also should have started by saying thank you very much to the finance team for all of their hard work on this. It's incredibly detailed, and that is one of the few things that I could see in there that I wanted to. I just wanted to ask the question about it. I've got questions about the capital side of things. Thank you.
I think Matt can answer that.
Yes. So as Mark will know and other members will know, we're starting the process of a master planning exercise at Tunbridge Farm that's looking kind of a root and branch review of some of the land uses down there. That does include the use of the pavilion. The pavilion is underused for the footprint that it has. It's an old building, as you say. It needs lots of repairs, including the roof. It seems fruitless to me to repair the roof on that building before we actually know whether we need the building in its current form or whether there's a more suitable land use there. It's something that we have to speak to the Leisure Trust about, and we're kind of incorporating it into the wider master plan. But again, Robert Stiles and Adam Mehmet are online. They're closely involved with the work at Tunbridge Farm and may wish to add if you've got any further questions.
Thank you. Tim Bishop.
Thank you, Chair. This isn't so much about the revenue and expenditure, it's more of going back to Paul's resume. How behind is the valuation office or revaluation of the quite important sites that we have pending?
It's difficult to say. The type of properties at Panatoni Park are very large, multidisciplined and different type of units, which get handed over to a very small team at the valuation office. The last property that was valued down there was the Amazon building. That took them nearly 18 months. So I have to be very honest here. I would like them to leave the valuation till after April 1st. Anything on our rating list as of 31st of March, they will adjust our baseline in future years. If it appears afterwards, we get the gross. So I am quite happy at the moment that, and this is going out on YouTube, that the current occupiers are not fully occupied on the site yet, because that will give the valuation office a chance to say, no, we don't need to go in a value. Fine. It's from what I understand, it's a really complex building and it will take time to do. I'm hoping it will be revalued because we gave them notice they were on site October. We have told the valuation office they're on site. It's just got to go through their teams. And part of the problem is that team deals with all valuations across the entire country. They are dealing with any large warehouse developments. So my likelihood is I'd like it on the books the next year. And when it does, please see the rocket go up from the council to say, yes, we've got some more money coming in.
Just that, 280,000 out of every £1 million valuation is a substantial amount of money that we will desperately be needing by the sounds of it.
Just to say though, because we've issued the completion notice for October, I have to backdate it to October. So we will get a very big peak in 1 year and then it will drop back down in future years. So that is something that we are thinking that will be handy for us, certainly as we need it. But yes, it is a sizable chunk. And that particular property, I think there are only 3 or 4 of that particular size in the country, and they are sizable on the raceable list. So, yeah.
Using. Okay, no more speakers. So I'd like to propose from the chair that the draft revenue estimates as drafted attached to Annex 1 be endorsed for consideration by Cabinet at its budget meeting on 10th February, and the discretionary and mandatory services set out in Annex 2 be noted. Can I have your agreement? Oh, Chris Brown seconding. Thank you, Chris. Nearly missed it. The next item 8, capital plan review 2025-26, and I think Donna and Robert are going to do this. Who's going first?
Thank you, Chair, and good evening to everyone. As Paul mentioned, along with the revenue estimates, we carry out a review of the Council's capital programme. The programme itself is used to support the provision of long-term assets for operational use, and these can be from building upgrades to the purchasing of equipment for use in our leisure centres. The capital plan process itself is set out in 3 phases. We have A, B and C. So just to recap on how it works, if I can start with list C, this is the list of desirable projects that meet the criteria set out in the capital strategy. Members are asked to consider these schemes for formal evaluation to determine the cost, the impact and the outcomes. Completed evaluations are recommended for members to either approve the scheme and move it onto list B, remain on list C for future consideration, or to completely remove it from list C. Looking at list B contains schemes that have been assessed by officers following discussions with members, but are yet to be financed. And the financing can be one or a mixture of funding, such as capital receipts, reserves, Section 106 monies, or grants. The funding streams are not exclusive and do not preclude the use of borrowing if it's necessary for schemes to progress. Once the financial arrangements have been resolved, officers will request that the transfer from the list B to list A. Moving back to the plan itself, in Annex 1 to the report, which is page 54, shows the current capital programme and the years where the schemes are expected to happen. So this includes any slippage from the previous years being brought into the current year slippage that's been pushed to future years, and any other schemes that's been approved outside of the capital plan process that we're currently going through. This year we had 3 schemes, and the details can be found in paragraph 7.3, which is page 45 of the agenda pack. But for reference, it's the Angel Centre replacement, Riverside Route lighting and Shallows Bridge. I would like to bring to members' attention for note that Waldham River Wall has been removed from the capital plan this year. There's been no structural movement reported for the last 4 years on this. So assessments will continue to be carried out, and should any change in the future happen, budget requirements will be reassessed. Continuing with the list A for a second, This includes recurring spend. So we've extended this out to 2031-32, and this will cover housing assistance, bin growth or replacement, and the car park rolling programme. Further details of that can be found in paragraph 7.5, which is page 45 of the agenda pack. Looking forward to what is to be considered, which we're hoping that members will consider for the capital plan. They're requested to consider the proposals within List C, which is Annex 3, page 83, and a summary can be found in section 9 of my report, which is page 47. This gives the details of the schemes that have been recommended for evaluation. We're currently asking that 9 schemes be put forward for evaluation, of which 6 of these schemes have actually completed an evaluation process for members' consideration to bring them forward. The full evaluations can be found in Annex 4, which is page 94, and it's summarised in table 10.7, page 48, giving the details of these schemes recommended to be transferred onto List B for the funding to be determined. Just very briefly, these schemes are Taddington Valley Site Improvement Works, the Tunbridge Swimming Pool Boiler Replacement, Leybourne Lakes Country Park Resurfacing Access Roads and Pathways, Tunbridge Farm Sports Ground Improvements for an all-weather pitch, the Enerva Suite for Angel Centre, and the water safety systems, the installation within the swimming pools. Of these 6 schemes, 2 schemes can be funded in full from the Leisure Trust. 1 scheme can be funded from Section 106 monies, and 2 further schemes can be financed from either partnership funding or grant funding. The remaining scheme, at a cost of £300,000, can be financed from the Revenue Reserve for Capital Schemes. Paul mentioned earlier that we have reviewed the capital allowance, and this has increased for the next 2 years to £500,000. So it will cover the cost of the boiler replacement. The additional monies, if members were to agree the progression of these schemes, it is suggested that the remainder of the capital allowance be put aside to match fund for the Taddington Valley site, the improvement works, and the all-weather pitch at Tunbridge Farm. Finally, officers are required to update the Council's capital strategy, which is contained in Annex 5, page 119 of the agenda pack. And that's for your consideration. Recommendations to Cabinet concerning the movement of schemes from List C to List B and from List B onto List A are contained in paragraph 3 on page 42 of your agenda pack. Thank you. I would be happy to take any questions or hand over to Robert.
Thank you. Robert, were you going to comment on this?
No, thank you, Chair. I think I'm here, well, for a report later, but also to help answer any questions, because obviously quite a lot of the capital schemes relate to projects in my department.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll invite Matt Borton then, if you want to say a word.
Thank you, Chair. So if reorganisation happens under the government's current timetable, this would be the last year, provided that we end up with spending restrictions imposed at the same period of reorganisation that has happened in previous reorganisations. This would be the last year in which effectively we would have a report like this, because we wouldn't be able to, after a date that is proposed to be probably the autumn of this year, autumn 26, to be able to spend money with essentially without government approval in order that the reorganisation process completes. So it's really important that our capital plan is very ambitious so that we can do a lot with what we've got available over the next few months, considering the capacity that we've got within the organisation to deliver these projects. So what we've done over the last few weeks and months is look quite deeply and carefully about what the priorities are. Now, of course, in an ideal world, you'd have an unlimited pot of money and you would fund everything and you'd have the resource to do everything. But the reality is that isn't the case. And Donna has touched on some of the projects that are being accelerated, deliberately so, because they're the ones where there's the greatest need. And I'll just mention one that Donna touched on. That's the Wooldham River Wall. Now, the Wooldham River Wall has been on the capital plan since 2017, and not a penny has been spent on it other than doing the odd survey to make sure that the wall's still there, which it is, and relying on Alex, the Wooldham residents tell us that it's still there, which it is still there. So we haven't got to spend the money that we anticipate there at the moment. Now, given that our current belief, and of course Mother Nature can do whatever Mother Nature does, is that that's unlikely to be needed within the next year or two, we've taken the decision on that one to effectively park that money, which gives us the ability to reallocate to projects that are urgent. And we've taken that level of analysis with all of the recommendations that are in the paper, which is actually identifying what is the immediate need on these projects, what are the ones that we want to do quickly, and recognizing that actually we need to be doing projects that we don't necessarily have additional follow-up spend to, if possible, because we know that the shutters might come down from central government at some point within the forthcoming financial year. There was an overview, Chair. That's where I say we are in terms of the principles by which we have put together this capital plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so I'm going to be pedestrian again and go through from list A. We'll start with at CP3 on page 56. So if you've got any comments on the list A, let me know. No. Right, we'll mosey along to list B. Oh, right. Oh, good.
Sorry, I thought we were going through it. You were going through it page by page. So no, it's my mistake. My mistake.
I'm happy to do that, but
well, whatever you choose.
But I would like to dead horse from it.
Yeah, I would like to comment on an item in list A. On page was it 59 of the pack? There's a line about housing assistance that I'd just like some clarity about. As the budget was reviewed by the Communities and Housing Advisory Board back in 2016. It's been, the gross budget provision is reduced from 90,000 to 60,000 a year. What is that? What does that relate to? And I just have an explanation of what that pays for, because yeah.
So the housing assistance budget is used for all our discretionary work under our grant policy. So things like energy efficiency work, helping people stay in the home with minor improvements like relaying paths that are uneven, like addressing hazards, and empty homes.
So that does that. Thank you, Jake. So that would. I'm a bit concerned about cutting something that's going to enable the discharge of people back into their own homes. If that's what this money, that doesn't seem to be a lot of money, but it could make a lot of difference.
And we're not actually going to be cutting the overall budget in use for that. We're going to get it from a different method, which is through the Better Care Fund. We can use that for some of the work that we've been traditionally doing under housing assistance.
Thank you. I'm suitably reassured. Thanks a lot.
Very much. Okay, I will go through them page by page. CP6, CP7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've got a question on 13. Angel Centre replacement. Why won't the old Angel Centre pay for the new? I think I've asked this before. Matt.
Very simple answer is we need to build the new one before we can do anything with the old one, because that gets the continuity of service. So effectively, we've got to find 19.4 million. That's the figure that's in the paper first to build it, and then any receipt, whether that's a capital receipt that we get in from the sale of the old one or whatever we decide to do with that, we can then offset, but that has to come afterwards. The alternative is we close the leisure centre now, pay for the new one, but that means no leisure facilities will no centre.
Thank you. I was just worried that it wasn't mentioned anywhere. I don't want it to go down the black hole when it's when the new one's up and running and the old one is demolished. I still think that there should be some mention, perhaps, of a contribution from the original centre going to the new one. Matt.
Adam Mehmet might want to come in on this because he's been looking at this in some detail. So we've got to look at the funding around the Angel Centre in the context of the Tunbridge Town Centre master plan. Obviously, we've got some quite ambitious proposals there that don't just look at the site of the existing leisure centre or new leisure centre. It looks at some of the other uses around Sovereign Way North, Sovereign Way East, and the other car parks that will cost money. When we adopted the master plan back in October, there was reference in there to the funding of it. Local government reorganisation would have an impact on that, but I think for the purposes of the question that you've asked and the purposes of this paper, we make the assumption that this project kind of continues until someone tells it otherwise, and so it should, by the way. But yes, I take the point that there could be a reference, and I'm very happy to address that actually this might be the cost of the new Angel Centre, but it is expected that in due course and at the appropriate time that the income that's received from the current Angel Centre site can be used as to offset that cost, because I do understand why that would provide reassurance in terms of actually recognising that, albeit we'll have to pay up fronts for it, there will be money that we're able to release that we currently can't release because it's got a leisure facility operational on that site.
Thank you very much. And I think there will be some sort of bridging loan, presumably. So it's good to say something like that that's positive. Adam, are you there? No? Yes. Good. Did you want to comment on it?
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman. Obviously not a member of your committee. I wasn't planning on saying much tonight, but yeah, there's not much really to add what Matt said. I think, you know, it's definitely in our mind, and at some point there would be a capital receipt, but I suppose the difficulty is knowing when that will occur. It will be sometime after the new Angel Centre is operational, and that is going to be fairly close to what we think LGR is going to be. So it's kind of how much time is there following that when we're a different authority anyway. And then it's being able to put a sort of number on that when there are still a sort of lot of moving parts involved. But yeah, absolutely, at some point there would be a capital receipt going towards the costs of the new centre, if that helps. Thank you.
Does help, and great to have it recorded. Thank you very much. Right, CP14. Anyone? 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, no, 20, 21, 22. Oh. Right, and on to 28. And list B. 9. Right, list B at page 83. I got, Lee Athol.
Yes, please. I just wanted to ask some questions around the Tunbridge Farm Sports Ground plans, and really just to ask whether we can have a bit more information about that, actually see the detailed plans and understand how that would be accessed, how that would be managed, and who would be able to use it. And I can only apologise if I should know everything about this already, but I don't feel like I do. I was a little bit surprised to hear this was going to be fencing off a huge area that's currently used as public amenity. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong yet. I'm just saying it'd be really good to know more about it. Also, just as a point of clarity, I thought earlier in the report we were saying this is on list C. Now it seems to be on list B. And also on the oh God, I got so tied up trying to go back and forward on the different parts of this. On the more detailed plan around this CP35, it said that there would be no costs to do this review because that would be covered by something else. But I noticed that in our revenue estimates, we've added 35k to the revenue budget for one-off consultancy for Tunbridge Farm capital projects. So I'm just very confused. I would very much like this to, I'd like to see a little bit more detail. And I wonder, this was something we moved out of the Tunbridge Programme Board quite explicitly. And I wonder if that was a mistake and perhaps we should move it back in so that we can review this with a bit more detail. I assume we'd need planning permission. I assume there's quite a lot that's involved here. And I have 100 questions about it. Sorry.
Thank you. Donna, would you like to address the point about the listing?
Certainly, thank you, Chair. The projects that are on list C are there because they've actually been added on. When we've actually established some funding, they move into list B. So you'll actually find the projects in both lists. So it's actually been brought into list B because that's what we're going to ask you to recommend.
But on the note in your report, when it looked like it was in list C, this wasn't one where we thought we'd found funding. We said we might be able to ask for some match funding, but the others had notes against them where you were saying we've got funding for this. This one, it didn't look like we had funding for. So anyway, sorry, I really would like to, I'd love to have some kind of briefing about this and some kind of ability to understand the detail of it. I'm sorry if I'm asking that at the wrong time. Perhaps I'm the only person asking that, but I am.
That's okay. We'll ask Robert to comment first and then Matt. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. I mean, this is to place the actual project onto the capital plan at this stage, and there will be an awful lot more detail to come forward. The description of the scheme reflects what was reported in the master plan to a previous meeting of the Tunbridge Town Centre Programme Board, which was then subsequently recommendations were made, which were picked up by and approved by Cabinet. Just before Christmas, we actually did send out, actually Stuart Edwards did, an invite to the 3 local members to have a briefing on this, together with some further issues around the lease for Tunbridge Football Club. We've heard back from one of those members. I think Stuart has sent out a reminder, but I think the way through this might be if Councillor Atwell wants to join that briefing, and then we can run through any issues, concerns, detail, but nothing will proceed. This is likely to be, I don't know, 18-month scheme because so much links back to the support that we need to get financially from the Football Foundation to achieve a grant. So it's very much dependent on that. But any issues around access, any issues around the existing football pitch where the cage is proposed to go, we can pick up at that briefing. So hopefully that will reassure you and give you the answers to the questions that you require.
Thank you. Matt.
Yeah, a few things, and some have been picked up. So whether the Tunbridge Programme Board wishes to reintroduce Tunbridge Farm into its remit or not, I'll leave that to the Tunbridge Programme Board to decide. The need for the all-weather pitch is that the existing, I don't really call it an all-weather pitch, hard court there is or ought to be condemned very soon because it's unsafe. So we have to do something. That goes without saying. Replacing like for like might not be a good idea, particularly on the basis that we know there is an identified shortfall in outdoor sports facilities, particularly in relation to football pitches in that area, and the demand for 3G pitches is very high. So there's an economic case to do it. The funding, there is developer contribution funding that's available from it, as Robert has said, just under 400,000. There's a potential for grants from the FA and from the Football Foundation too. So really, until you know the budget for this sort of project, you know sort of what size you're building. But we started to look in amongst the rest of the master plan down at Tunbridge Farm about what the options are too. We also know that there's plenty of evidence that users of grass pitches at the moment will essentially use 3G pitches for the same football matches that they were playing if a 3G pitch is built, and that's compatible with all of the local leagues. And I know that through my football refereeing too. What I would say, as Robert said, is that local members were offered a briefing. Anna's one of them. I think Anna has responded. Her other two colleagues haven't. So I think it would be a good idea for you, Lee, to join that briefing if the local members are happy. And that was offered before Christmas. So if it's of interest, then I'd suggest take up the offer. That's why we have these available to local members, so that you can ask questions, really. And I'm sure that we'd be happy to share where we are at this point in the process. But we're trying to effectively put together the best case we possibly can at the moment. That's why it appears on the capital plan, and it appears on the capital plan in the way it's been presented tonight.
Mark.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, the Tunbridge master plan, Tunbridge Farm master plan, was decoupled in order so that the programme board could really concentrate on delivering the Angel Centre because of the time constraints that have been alluded to earlier regarding capital expenditure. It does seem that probably another similar kind of collection of councillors, like a working party or whatever you want to call it, programme board or whatever, is necessary, because this does seem to be, there's a lot of issues in that part of the world. The facilities down there in terms of things like the skate park, if those courts need condemning that the Councillor Borton was talking about, certainly that skate park needs replacing, because that has been there for a long time. I know that Councillor Hoskins did a lot of work actually delivering that, but that all of this needs to be part of it, and so that we've got some kind of confidence about what that part of Tunbridge is going to look like. So I think that would probably be a better, and maybe an all-member briefing about this, bring us all up to speed rather than just a handful of councillors, because I'm very interested in this, certainly.
Thank you.
I've got some other questions, but I see Councillor Atherton wants to.
Yeah, I think so. I think a briefing, but I think also, I guess what I'm just trying to make sure we are not at a decision point here, because I think there's a heck of a lot to think about in this situation. And I think the principle of fencing in amenity green space that's currently used by everybody, can be used by everybody. It's not just used by football players. It's used by cricket players. It's used by people doing outdoor training. It's used by walkers, runners. It's used by loads of people. Fencing that in and making that unavailable, let alone ripping up grass and putting in not grass, is one thing. When I saw this before on a list, and that's all I've seen it as so far, I thought you were talking about resurfacing the existing courts. That's what I thought you were talking about. So when I saw that this was taking another chunk of green space away, I started to get quite concerned. But anyway, it sounds like I don't need to worry too much, because we're not making decisions at this point. We're just talking about evaluations. But I would like to know whether we are spending £35,000 on consultancy on this or not. Because as I say, on the subsequent one pager that's just about this thing, it says that any costs will be covered by the football people. But on our revenue estimates, we've bunged in a 35k estimate, if that's what this is for.
Yeah, at the moment we've had sorry through you, Chair, we've had an indication from the Football Foundation that they might be able to cover that cost. So just to cover ourselves, we've also put that money in the revenue estimates in case that doesn't come through. So if we are able, out of the share of the money that the Football Foundation grant us, if we're successful, we would then no longer need the money in the revenue estimates.
And I think that's a bit optimistic to have written none covered by somebody else. That's a little bit misleading. So could be 35k, might be none.
Okay, so thank you for offering a meeting, and I'm sure all the members will take you up on that. So Great. So that was page 83. List B. Anyone else on that? Oh, Mark. Good.
So, sorry, thank you, Chair. I've just got some questions about some of the items. CP 39, it talks about the pathway around Tunbridge Racecourse Sports Ground, and it's a considerable length of pathway. And I just want to raise the issue that there is an opportunity here to widen that pathway considerably as part of that. And then I've just got some questions. I've got questions about on CP 48, Tunbridge swimming pool boilers. Yeah, one at a time.
Yeah, can I start at the beginning? Seems a bit odd, but there you go. So CP 32, and yes, I know that's where you want to be, but I want to be at 32, so that I know I've done it. So 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Right, Wendy.
We are talking about the Leybourne Lakes one, are we? Just make sure I'm on the right page. CP 37, page 90 is one section. It's on list.
Yes,
well,
okay.
On one page, it's on list C, and on the page 83, it's on list A. It does say that it's being fast tracked. As you know, my opinion of 106 money going to all of it seems to be going to Leybourne Lakes rather than to the parishes and the places that have been affected with it. It now says it's been fast tracked, so that doesn't seem to be a discussion that everybody's having. It just seems to be a fait accompli that an awful lot. It says over. It's a band E, so greater than £200,000 will immediately go to Leybourne Lakes every time, rather than the parishes that have been affected by the monies, by the developments that 106 have been playing. I know this is a conversation that we've had across many things, but yeah, fast tracked. So it's a fait accompli. It's going to list A and it's going to be done.
Let's ask Robert.
Well, through you, Chair, we've identified. I mean, we did a lot of work a few years ago to the past. Had quite a lot of user and also local member comment about the condition of areas of that. As you know, paths are notoriously expensive, but that path around the main lake is absolutely essential. I mean, the majority of people that go to that site use that path. So we've identified this as a project. We have already filled the sort of most health and safety or the ones that need doing immediately. We then liaise with our colleagues in planning services. That level of funding was identified as available for this project. Outside of that, I don't know what other competing schemes, say, were being brought forward for that resource.
Thank you. Mike Taylor.
Just to pick up on that point, I think we do need a discussion in the future about the first disposition of Section 106 money. It seems to have been decided at officer level without local member input. I mean, yes, it's right that the whole borough should pay for things like Leybourne Lakes and the Angel Centre because we all theoretically benefit from it. But it's this local money disappearing and we can't get it locally. That's what really gripes. We have a real job getting local Section 106 money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hang on a minute, I'll just gather my thoughts. Matt.
I know a bit more about this issue that Wendy refers to. I suggest this probably isn't the moment to go into that because it effectively affects the step on from what Robert was saying. I take Robert's point in terms of his involvement as a director responsible for delivering the scheme, which is he goes to effectively ask the question of our planning department as to how much Section 106 money is available. And then, whereas I think the question is, why has the Section 106 money been presented to Leybourne Lakes at the expense of other schemes? I would suggest that's probably more of a planning question. I'm aware of some correspondence from parish councils on related matters that need to be and will be dealt with separately to the budget tonight.
Okay, thank you. Actually, we do have on our work programme, Section 106 money is coming through to the April meeting. So we can cover that point that you've made, Wendy, and find out, do a deep dive into it and find out about it.
Nita, when we had the meeting with Chelsea earlier this week, she did mention that there would be presentations to parish councils, so each individual parish council can drill down into their own wish list, I think.
Yeah, that's helpful. And also, actually, we did have a briefing from Chelsea Honey, who looks after the Section 106 money, and very helpfully, Donna's team produced a pie chart, which we're not used to seeing, and 50%, no, was it 50.626% of the money for 106 does go to parishes. So that was quite encouraging, but that was just a briefing, but it's something that will be included in the papers when it comes before this committee in April. So great, thank you. Yes, back to CP 38. I think Mark had covered his point. CP 39. Yeah, Mark.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the obviously the resurfacing of the footpath around a part of Tunbridge Racecourse Sports Ground is welcome, and I can see that there's going to be this new edging with the PCC curbing, which is very welcome. However, the additional cost of widening the path slightly, using the waste from the path that's broken up in order to use that as the foundation and widen the path is an opportunity I think we should be considering, because that would make a real difference, and that would allow pedestrians less conflict between pedestrians and young cyclists who use that area.
Thank you. Robert, do you have a comment on that?
Purely to say that we have an allowance of money. We will be liaising with the local members, which will include Councillor Hood. We had a discussion previously about sort of path works around Haysden, and we've committed to make sure that we do liaise with the local members. If members want, if we come to the conclusion we want a shorter area but wider, that could be progressed, or if we want a longer area done but keeping it in same width. So everything's up for discussion in terms of the detail of that, and more than happy to run that through local members.
Very much. Are you happy with that, Mark?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm really sorry. Can I go back to CP 31? I
Yes.
don't know how I've jumped
Of course
about. CP 31. The relating to no, that's not certain.
It's B.
Page 84. Basically, it's list C.
List C.
It's list C.
Yeah.
Relating to the Riverside route.
Right.
The Riverside environmental area. I've lost it in my notes. Hang on. Have I jumped forward too far? Sorry, I've gone back. Yeah, I've gone back. So basically, there's the sorry, I'm really sorry about this. The Riverside environmental improvements have been decoupled. So in list A, is the lighting scheme, which is fantastic between Town Lock and Cannon Lane. What I'm concerned about is the fact that in list C is the other part of that scheme, and it says that it's being basically held back there, and it's saying it isn't being evaluated. Well, it's already been evaluated. It was evaluated in 2022. So our director confirmed that the work had already been done. We'd engaged with work that had been commissioned, and we've been waiting for longer than that. We've been waiting since for 4 years to actually have a presentation to local members about this. So I'm begging that this is placed into list B. I don't expect any building out of the scheme, but so we can see some kind of progress. My predecessor, Councillor Bolt and Councillor Cure, campaigned to get this public realm enhancement. That's how long we've been waiting. I'd love that to be placed in list B.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, Chair.
That's all right. Matt's got something to say on this.
This is where we have to be quite realistic about our priorities. I mean, the reality is, while there's some funding, there isn't full funding to do sections section 2 and 3, or B and C. I can't remember which it's called now. So if it is the case that we want to prioritise that, what's it at the expense of?
Okay, thank you. Right, where were we? Page 39, TP 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48.
I had a question about 48, about the swimming pool boilers. I just wanted to inquire about. I can see there's a huge amount of expense. I can see that the council's taken an approach. It's weird because it seems to be taking a short-term approach to this when officers are telling us that actually it's a business as usual kind of approach. So we're just replacing gas boilers on a like-for-like basis. And this seems to be in conflict with the council's own commitment to having zero carbon operations for our leisure centres. I'd just like some kind of comment about that. I can see that it's a lot, and understand that it is a lot of money, but in the long term, it would be beneficial for the taxpayers of Kent, of Tunbridge and Malling.
Thank you. Damien's going to jump in on this one.
And Mark, thank you for that question. It is really frustrating, isn't it, that the technology to replace gas boilers works for a certain scale of properties, but there isn't a solution at the moment that balances cost with efficiency. Now, these new boilers will certainly be more efficient than the current boilers, that's for sure. But the technology around ground source and air source heat pumps hasn't reached a scale where there's an affordable solution for that building. And the problem we have at the moment is those existing boilers are going to fail, given that they're end of life. And therefore, we are facing a risk at the moment that unless we replace them with more efficient boilers, the building will not be operational. So I guess it's a pragmatic response to a difficult solution, but I share your frustration. I think as soon as the technology becomes available and it's affordable, then I think the council will want to look at that and implement it as quickly as possible. The good news is that while these boilers can't be replaced with a non-gas boiler solution, there are other things the council can do elsewhere that is cost effective, that does make a significant difference. And I think it's about focusing our resources and attention where it's going to have the greatest impact or the lowest level of investment.
Thank you. Was it also about lack of grant funding?
We've been very fortunate and indeed very successful at being able to bid for national funds for these sorts of things, but unfortunately and disappointingly, those funds have dried up. So that has made a difference. Well, thank you, Chair.
Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate these things, and I do appreciate that the decarbonisation funding from government seems to have dried up. But quite often you would spread the cost of the infrastructure over its lifespan, and that we're making a conscious decision not to do that, and that's fair enough for the reasons that you've explained. Does this mean that we are not going to be able to fulfil that commitment in terms of how operating from carbon neutral leisure centres?
Right, Matt, and then Paul.
It's a shame Robin Betts isn't here because he's the expert on carbon neutral boilers. We have relied, as Damien said, on the public sector decarbonisation fund. That isn't happening anymore. That's austerity on steroids in action too. The issue that we've got is effectively, and the table at the bottom of page 100 at CP47 kind of like spells this out, which is which of those options do we take? Now that's looking at it from a pure financial perspective, but actually there's in terms of what would it do in terms of energy efficiency too, and that's the balance that we've got to take. Now we don't know where the tipping point will be between effectively the climate change aspect of this and the economic aspect too. But if I could suggest you speak to Robin Betts about this, he can give you many hours on it if you wish.
Paul.
Just want to add, next month's Finance, Regen and Property Scrutiny Select Committee will be getting a report on this exact one. Robin wanted it to come back to members so you can understand why we're going down the route that it is. As Matt has mentioned, the table on there, the ones in brackets are actually not a saving. There are costs to the council. So of the options, there is only one that actually gives us the saving, and that's £4.5 million. We've got no grant support for this. We would have to look at our own resourcing or even borrowing for this. So hence the reason why the lesser of the options is the more energy efficient boilers that we can fit.
Happy with that? Good. Thank you. Right, back to the papers and page 101, CP48, CP49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, yeah, 758, 59, 6. Oh, Sarah.
The nervous suite.
Brilliant. Have a look online. He's great for old people.
I'm not going there now.
Perhaps Robert would like to comment.
So,
Reduced,
sorry,
do you get reduced memberships?
Robert, the Nerva suite.
I thought you might be referring to my age, asking me to comment. This is a sort of quite a new initiative in the market, and it is for people of an older generation or people with certain medical conditions, and they're able to undertake exercising on specially designed machines. It's something that we're hoping to introduce as a really significant feature of the replacement Angel Centre. But in the meantime, the Trust are looking to bring perhaps a slightly smaller version into the Angel Centre because they see the market, and I understand that they want to crack on and not wait. But the really positive thing about this is it's being costed completely by the Trust. And secondly, when the replacement facility is built, we will literally move that kit over, and it will form part of the equipment for the new facility. So it's at no cost. It's something that is extremely popular at other sites. So in our view, it's a bit of a win-win. It comes into the capital plan purely because obviously when the council will take on that equipment after the Trust have paid for it, there has to be provision within capital renewals to fund it. That's why it's in the capital plan.
Thank you, and I'm sure we'll all try it out. Right, CP60, 61, 62, 63, 64. That's the end of list C. And now we've got all the recommendations to go back to. So they're on page 42, and I'm hoping I can get through this without stumbling. It's quite complicated. Right. Members of this committee note the current capital plan list A position as shown in Annex 1. I have agreement to that. Thank you. The next one, I need a proposer and seconder. Recommended that Cabinet be asked to amend List C, Annex 3, as detailed in paragraph 8.3. Seconder, Alex, thank you. Right. Yes. Oh, is that agreed? Good. Right. Good. Right. We're on a roll. 3.3. Recommended that Cabinet be asked to endorse the transfer of the 5 fast track evaluated schemes, Annex 3, shown in paragraph 9.4 for List C, from List C to List B. Can I have a proposer for that? Sarah. Seconder? Alex? Does everyone agree? Thank you. 3.4. It's recommended that Cabinet be asked to select the remaining 4 List C schemes in paragraph 9.4 for evaluating. I have a proposer for that. Sarah, Alex. Everyone agree? Right. 3.5. It's recommended that Cabinet be asked to endorse Capital Plan List B totaling 1.869 million as shown in Annex 2 and paragraph 11.3 to List A, subject to the remaining finance being identified. I have a proposer for that.
Can I ask a question about that recommendation?
Yes, please.
Can I just ask what endorse means? What does endorse mean? Does it mean approve, or does it mean, what does it mean?
I think it's just sort of agree with it, but
Chair, because this isn't the final decision-making body, it's really just confirming your support. But the decision will then go through Cabinet and full council.
Is it saying that we're happy to spend 1.89? It is. So we're agreeing to spend that. We're saying that we recommend to Cabinet that they agree to spend that money on those specific schemes. Agree.
Agree with that. Oh, have I got a proposer and a seconder? Oh, Sue Bell seconded it. So do you want to take a vote on that?
I don't mind
separately.
Yeah, I just until we've got more details, I don't want to say that I agree to that. However you'd like to do that. I'd be put that in the minutes or do a vote on it.
Hey, did you want to speak to that?
Surely we get the detail through putting it, all the stuff you do with List B. I mean, putting it into List B means you're then going to get it looked at and the detail will come out of it. So you've got to put it into List B in order to get that detail.
That was my question. Sorry,
Thank you.
That's what I was asking.
No, don't worry.
Anyone else? Right. I think I've got a proposer and seconder. Do we have a affirmation, general affirmation? Okay.
Sorry, I just said that I wouldn't agree to that. So that's not
Right.
general
So
information for me. I'll just
perhaps,
abstain or
right,
something.
hands up if you agree with it. And if you disagree, that's 1, 2, 3. Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. Motion's carried. Okay, on to 3.6. It's recommended that Cabinet be asked to update the capital plan list A position as recommended above. Have I got a proposer and a seconder for that? Oh, Sue Bell and Mark Rose, thank you. And 3.7. Oh, did everyone agree with that one? Right, nearly got it right. Right, but last one. 3.7, it is recommended that Cabinet be invited to endorse the capital strategy, which is right at the back of the list C, as attached to Annex 5 for adoption by Council and publication on the Council's website. I have a proposer and Sarah and Sue. And general affirmation. Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll move on to agenda item 9, which is the procurement partnership, and we've got a guest, Dan Hutchinson from Tunbridge Wells, to talk about this if necessary, and Robert. So I don't know who's going to go first.
If I just do a brief introduction, Chair, and then maybe Dan can talk a little bit about some of the stuff that achieved over the last 18 months, one or two examples, and anything we're planning for the future. But you'll see that the report outlines a full review of the Mid-Kent Procurement Partnership and highlights that the Council joined that partnership in May 2024. I think it's fair that prior to that to say that procurement was not a strong strength of this authority, which was identified by the Council's external auditors. And in overall terms, you'll see that the report feels that the partnership has been highly successful over the last 18 months, bringing forward a wide range of improvements, and most importantly, ensuring that we have full compliance with the appropriate legislation. Highlights of achievements to date and plans for the future are included in the report. As I say, Dan can perhaps pick up on those in a minute. And if obviously members have any questions, we can answer those. It's felt by the officer team that the Council should continue with the partnership and maintain the good work that's been undertaken to date. And that's reflected in the proposed recommendation to Cabinet by this committee at section 3 of the report. Over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Robert, and good evening, members. I think, as Robert highlighted there, we've outlined some of the key achievements over the last sort of 12 to 18 months in the report that's been put forward. Some of the key ones for me are successfully navigating what has been the biggest change to public sector procurement for a generation. So Procurement Act 23 came in February of 2025, so we're almost a year in now. We've successfully navigated that and obviously adapted all of our processes and our procedures accordingly and embedded them seamlessly. So massive thanks to my team and obviously to all of the officers at TNBC, as well as the other two partner authorities for that, because without them we wouldn't have achieved it quite so seamlessly, put it that way. On top of that, a lot of what we've been doing over the last 12 months, well, it's, 18 months-ish, has been strategic. So we've managed to write and adopt obviously the council's procurement strategy, although we do also need to review that this year. So that's one of the things that we'll be looking to do. We've implemented various procedures and processes which obviously didn't exist before joining the partnership. We've successfully worked on sort of 35 projects ranging from initial supplier engagement events all the way through to the largest contract that we let in terms of waste and street scene, which we're still obviously actively working on, but that's been handled very, very well. So yeah, very, very pleased with how it's all gone. I guess the other thing that I would like to speak to is how well received we've been by the officers at TNBC. They've been very, very open and receptive to working with us. I've run various different training sessions and they've always been well attended, and people have been very, very engaged with those. So I can only thank officers, very much for that. And they've embraced, the changes and have really kind of adapted to them well. So from me, very, very positive, and looking forward to the challenges ahead in the future.
Thank you very much, both of you. It's a really good news story. And are there any comments on it? No? Okay, I'll propose from the chair that we accept option 3, which is on page 133 at the top at 8.1.3. Can I have a proposer, Sarah and Robert? Oh no, I proposed it. Seconder. That's what I need. Robert. Alan, thank you. Second it. And general affirmation. Thank you. Okay, on to the agenda item 10, annual service delivery plan. And I think Jill Fox is going to talk to this one.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report is to consider the annual service delivery plan for 26-27, ahead of it going to Cabinet for approval. So the work undertaken aims to further embed the links between the corporate strategy and the annual budget setting process. As you'll be aware, it's our main performance management tool, setting out the Council's priority actions for the year, along with key milestones and our targets, and an opportunity for the ONS committee to see if the Council's on track with delivery against these targets. So the annual service delivery plan is set out in Annex 1 with 63 actions addressing the 4 priority areas of our corporate strategy. Each action has milestones along with accountability that can be monitored so we can check progress throughout the year. There's also a suite of KPIs that are attached. This is an opportunity for the overview and scrutiny to ensure that you've got full member oversight and engagement of the plan as we go through the year, as you'll be each quarter, the progress is reported to this committee. The recommendations are in, before I go on, actually, there is an amendment that needs to happen. On page 160, item 13.12 relates to learning and development opportunities. This is going to be removed as it's apparently a duplication of one of the other actions just above it. So there is a slight amendment there. Recommendation, Chair, section 3.
Very much, Sharon. Any comments on this? Do you want to go through it, Franny?
If you're going to go through it page by page, I was on.
Do that.
I was looking at page 165, which is the
Right,
fair
we'll
way on.
just whiz through the priority action and delivering and embedding the corporate strategy, caring for the environment. Right. 143, I'm up to. Actually, at 142, I would say that at 3.1. Okay. the contaminated land. I was really pleased to see that flagged up. I think that's really good. Anna Cope.
Hi there. I just wanted to question the using our land and assets better. What that actually really means, because it's very woolly. Thank you. Sorry, 140, delivering and embedding the corporate strategy, sorry.
Chair, just if I can add. So these are priorities already set out in the council's corporate strategy that was agreed, I think, 2 years ago, 2023. And the council obviously owns and manages a number of assets. And it's really important, I think, that the council demonstrate that it's achieving value for money and delivering as many positive outcomes as it can from those assets. It's, I guess, deliberately wide-ranging. And what the annual service delivery plan then has the opportunity to do is to spell that out in more practical terms and in more detail. So I think it's a very helpful umbrella, but obviously the detail sits underneath that within the service delivery plan content. Thank you.
Are you okay with that? Okay, I'm going. Right. So 141, we're on caring for the environment. 142, 143. Yes, Mark, good.
Thank you very much. At the bottom of 143, we've got a line, replacement of the penny shelter. That should be the threepenny shelter, I think. At River Walk in Tunbridge. Now, this line is particularly important because to me, it's in my ward. Members may be aware that we had an incident with one of the waste vehicles. One of the sweepers swang round, caught the threepenny shelter, knocked it over. We think that there's scope for the council to do something different here, possibly. But I think that it's essential that we actually have some kind of consultation. Previously, I know that the members, the cabinet members, have said, "Oh, it would be too much confusion because we had a number of consultations all overlapping, which was a fair point. However, as far as I'm aware, we seem to be in a relatively consultation-free period, and I would ask that we go to residents and ask them. We canvass their opinion and gauge the support for either the status quo of just restoring it exactly as it was, in exactly the same location, moving it slightly further back in order to facilitate a much larger area. But there's an event that's held on the River Walk, which is highly successful. They really need some more space. And as it happens, that shelter having been removed has enabled them to have a lot more room, or removing it to another location, rebuilding it more remotely in order to create a much bigger performance area. But I think there's a real opportunity here. Instead of just getting on and rebuilding it, we should be asking residents what they think. The capital cost would be very small, but I think it could be a missed opportunity here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
When Mark says we, I don't know who we is that you referred to, because I know there are some groups in town who are very keen to advocate the place like for like and have been quite forthright in expressing that opinion to us. I think the problem we still have is, as I updated the Tunbridge Community Forum on at its meeting at the back end of November, and that is that it's still in the hands of the insurers at the moment. As of last week, and I haven't had an update this week, but Paul may, well, okay, in that case, it's unchanged from where it was last week, which is effectively we've had to appoint loss adjusters to deal with the other party's representatives. So until we actually know effectively the outcome of that insurance process, what money we'll get for it, I don't think we can consult realistically, because we're not quite sure what the budget is to rebuild or replace such a thing in that location. Therefore, I think it's worthy of being in the annual service delivery plan to ensure that something happens. I think something has to happen on that site, but I don't think it's fair to effectively go out of an open-ended consultation to then find out that ultimately we've got we've got views coming back that say we should do something that we can't afford and that won't be covered by the other party's insurers, because that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve here. Tunbridge and Moreland Council is not responsible for the demise of the penny shelter.
Lee, would it just be reasonable if we don't use the word replacement then and we just put sorting out of? That's a terrible word, but
Resolving.
the fact that you've written replacement makes it sound like it's a done deal, that it's going to be replaced like for like. That's all I'm saying. Can we put something in the plan that's just a bit less bullish? Resolution.
Matt,
I am cautious because firstly, replacement doesn't say replacement like for like. So I think we can dance on the head of the pin over what the definition of replacement is. I mean, we're doing a replacement angel sensor, but it's not the same angel sensor that we're replacing, is it? And also, I don't know what conditions will come back from the outcome of the insurance process. I don't know whether Paul wishes to expand on that. I'm not an insurance expert. But that's, I think, is something that we need to be mindful of.
That was actually the point I was about to say. I have to say there could be conditions listed from the. I mean, I wasn't even aware about the penny shelter until actually the incident happened. When you actually look at the history on this, my immediate reaction was, "Oh, is this considered to be a heritage asset? I.e., have we got to treat this differently within the financial statements? And have we actually got to replace it like for like?" That is a question I think we've got to go back to the insurers eventually, because they may well say, well, actually, you've got to replace it like for like. But I don't know at the moment. As I said, the insurance process is very long and very drawn out because the Ross Justice will take their time over it. Once I have any information, I will make sure members are aware of what is going on. But as Matt said, last week I hadn't heard anything, and I haven't heard anything more this week, funny enough. So,
page 144. 145, I've got a question. Fly tipping, environmental, fixed penalty notices. And the percentage of environmental FPNs that are served that are paid. Do we have a problem getting the payment? Matt.
We debated this quite long and hard because one of the, I'm sure Jeremy will update me on what it was before, but essentially, if your KPI is effectively the number of fly tippers in the borough and it's high, then of course you're going out looking for stuff that's not really an offence to meet the KPI, if you see what I mean. If it's too low, then actually you meet your KPI, but you might be ignoring fly tipping that's out there. So I don't think that's the right measure. The measure that you can control effectively is the FPNs that are paid, how many of them are paid without getting into a long drawn out appeal process. And of course that relies on accurate FPNs being issued and the FPNs that are issued then being paid and us being clear in our communications with the recipients of those FPNs. Now, the reason I think that's important is because we do some of the income, or the majority of the income, goes to the contractor. We keep a small percentage of that, but therefore we obviously know how much that is, and it's in the papers, in the budget papers, and that's something that actually we can hold the contractor to as well, because I think it's something that we can control much better than simply the amount of fly tipping, because we should not be going out looking for fly tipping that doesn't exist. That's just going to get people's noses up.
Thank you. Lee.
I get what you're saying, but does that not potentially drive the behaviour of not issuing an FPN notice if you don't think it's going to get paid? You see what I mean? Anyway, it's just interesting. It doesn't really.
It's exactly, if I may, it works exactly the same way with civil enforcement officers for parking fines, which is ultimately some get paid straight away. Some people appeal it. When some people appeal it, they've got a case. When some people appeal it, they don't have a case but just want to cause a bit bit of a scene. And essentially, I think we should treat these as very similar aspects. Ultimately, if a fixed penalty notice is issued by this authority for whatever it is, there has to be reasonable expectation that that is going to be paid. And that means we have to ensure that we have collected the evidence and that our operatives have collected the evidence to demonstrate that if the recipient of the FPN wishes to pursue that as far as they want in terms of independent adjudication legally too. And we know that there are cases, whether it's parking or waste, in which people do go to quite some lengths. The reason that this has actually become, I think, more prevalent is because we've actually increased our fines in the last couple of years for littering and fly tipping offences. Now, rightly so, I think that was a debate that we had, because actually we want to reduce littering and fly tipping as much as possible. But obviously, if you receive a fine, that's an extra part of your income that's going to be affected. So it's as you say, it's a very interesting. It's a very interesting debate. But I would say if you just don't litter and fly tip in the first place, you won't have to worry about it. Not that you do, by the way, Lee, but I say that to anyone who may be tempted.
Mark.
Yeah, just on this, the matter of unpaid or late paid fines. The councils, when we agreed that we would engage the contractor for issuing these fixed penalty notices, I think we all thought that this would involve littering on the street and fly tipping. What has been happening, and I think unfortunately still is happening, is we've got contractors entering business premises and they have been issuing fines, and apparently they are still told, part of the contract is that they can issue fines if a business cannot demonstrate that it has the requisite rules, the requisite waste disposal contract. And some of these companies are very, very small, and they can have just a single bag that they can order a bag to come and be picked up. But some of them just take the waste home, were taking the waste home themselves because they created so little waste. But they have fallen foul in the past. I would urge the council to reconsider the terms of our contract with that contractor, so that we don't have them waste. They are straying from their core function of keeping our streets litter free and our borough free of fly tipping. And I think this is a subsidiary action that they are taking, and I don't think it's in the borough's, this council's best interests or the best interests of our business community for them to be doing that.
Thank you, Matt.
A little bit away from the KPI, but I'll address it anyway. So all members will have received an email from me at 6:57 on the Thursday, the 13th of November, explaining this, and I'd refer everyone to that. Thank you, Chris. I'm glad you remembered my emails. The problem we've got here is that if you are a business and you have business premises, you have a legal obligation under the Environmental Protection Act 1990 in order to ensure you can demonstrate how your waste is disposed of. What we don't have the choice to do, and nor does any local authority, is what laws of the land we wish to enforce against or not. That is the law of the land, and therefore, if given our responsibilities, we have to follow that through. I mean, that's the same for any council. Now, what we can do, and what we do, is we recognise that actually this is a little bit of little-known legislation, and we work with people, and where contractors perhaps start enforcing this, rather than doing that education piece first, we went ahead and we rescinded fixed penalty notices that were given. And that's the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, the law is the law in this regard, and we can't pick and choose which laws we choose to follow and which laws we choose not to follow. And that's not my choice. It's not this council's choice in any way. It's just a matter that you might want to take up with the government, really.
Thank you for that information. Paul Hickmott.
Yes, I heard what Matt has said, and yes, the law is the law. But the contractors, they must have thought they were in some sort of Praetorian Guard or something. They were issuing FPNs to a shopkeeper for rubbish that was on his own land. They also issued an FPN by looking over somebody's back fence, peeping over into their private property, and issued them an FPN. Well, I don't think the law quite goes to that extent. I thought if they're fly tipping or not disposing of their waste property, it won't be actually on their property, and it should be seen to be they haven't acted as they should have done. So we have had a few problems with this. So while we're happy to see the numbers of FPNs going up, it's got to be taken into account how they're issued, you know, what the cause of it. So I think we need to be careful. And I spend a lot of my time reporting things, odd bits of, you know, refrigerators, you name it, bits and pieces, benches, tyres, all sorts of things. But unfortunately, a lot of these people that do that don't get caught. So it's a pity that we can't pick up more of those.
Joanna Cope.
Yeah, I'd just like to concur with Paul as well, because I feel saying the law is the law. I'm constantly raising enforcement issues with TMBC about a myriad of issues, and I feel that it's like a Sisyphean task, isn't it? So if the law is the law, let's be proactive on everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Well, that's what we are, and as I explained in my email of the 13th of November, which Chris Brown remembers, that explains how we deal with it. Chair, we are a little bit far off the agenda item. I haven't actually heard anyone who has come up with an alternative proposal for the annual service delivery plan. Might I suggest that if members wish to pursue this in a bit more detail, it's something that's taken up by the Communities and Environment Scrutiny Select Committee, when some of our waste officers will be able to come and perhaps have this conversation in more detail.
Good idea, but yeah, thank you very much for that positive suggestion. And I'm sure all those members that have been talking about it will do it. So onward with the plan. 146, 147. Just to put your hand up if you want me to stop. 148, 149, 150. Lee.
Just two questions about the affordable housing line. One, I was just wondering why we don't have a estimated performance for 2005, 2006, and just wanted to absolutely clarify what we mean by affordable housing. What do we mean? A mix of social housing, affordable for rent, and what do you call them? It's when you can buy 10%. That's the one. Thank you.
Cool. Right.
Yep, on the first bit where it says to be confirmed, that column, that's the established 526. So we haven't finished that year yet. So it will be when we come back.
But we've got it for lots of other
measures. In some cases the data's all sorted for the whole year, but there are some where we're still collecting data, it's still ongoing. So that will be reported to this committee when we report the quarter. Detail. Probably Linda can.
Yeah, the terminology here, affordable homes, will include social rent, affordable rent, and then shared ownership, and any other discounted products for sale. But it'll be its broadest definition.
So we could meet our criteria successfully with 170 shared ownership, no extra social rent, no extra affordable rent. That's true. I would like to propose a change to that target then, because I'd like to see it broken down. Because I just think that's quite different, and looking across the borough and what we need, and saying that we've met a criteria if we've just got 170, for example, shared ownership properties is quite a different thing to having 50 social rent, 50, I think it's different.
Do we need a proposer and seconder for that, or can we just take that on board?
Would it be helpful, Chair, to have just a little bit more explanation about maybe some of the challenges? I can see Councillor Bolton wants to come in, but and I'm happy to pick it up as well.
Carry on.
I'll say what I'm going to say, and then Damien will give a better answer. So, I get it, and I'm not against the idea in principle at all. It would definitely help. However, I think there's a question about this, because this is built out per annum, and there's the question about what we can get from different developments that are coming forward, because the ratio of affordable housing across the 3 tenures that Linda has suggested does change from development to development. It depends which developments are being built out, how many have come on board. There'll be a difference within the borough too. Now, all of that's very interesting data. I completely get that. I think the critical thing, though, is that when we give planning permissions, we are effectively providing an affordable housing contribution. We're not giving a contribution for, well, we are, but it's sort of not part of the core application for social rent or affordable rent, or each of the different ones. So I'm not against the idea at all, but I do think we're going to make it more complex, and it's down to members as to how detailed you want the annual service delivery plan to be. But I'm not against the idea in principle.
So if we can discuss it, it can be discussed at another meeting. Lee.
Just come back with you, but isn't that part of our policy that we created around planning policy to go with we've created those percentages, haven't we, as part of our policies? All I'm asking is for us to, and this is only a target, right? It's just a target. I understand all of these are just targets. And if the housing market changes drastically, we might not meet them. But doesn't our housing policy framework that we've created, doesn't that specify percentages of each type of affordable housing? Shouldn't we therefore reflect that? I understand exactly what you're saying. Nobody wants to develop anything, we won't get anything. But it's a target, isn't it?
Linda's probably the expert to cover that. But as I say, I'm not against the idea in principle at all. It's just down to how easy it is to measure. But Linda will explain how that works.
Yeah, our affordable housing protocol talks about of the 40% that we ask for, 70% is affordable rented and 30% is the product to buy. I mean, I'm not adverse to breaking that figure down. The only warning shot I would say, just to back up what Councillor Borton said, is that although that's our policy, it's not always deliverable on the sites, and we have to have an element of negotiation. They may have to provide more shared ownership, and we lose some of the affordable rent to make the site viable. But I'm not adverse to exploring a more breakdown of that figure if that's what members.
Mark Hood. And then Kim.
Yeah, very quickly. On this matter, I think we commissioned our own affordable housing study, didn't we? Which informed us that actually social housing is the only effective kind of form of affordable housing that it would meet the requirements of our borough, because there's such a deficit in the provision of that kind of housing. So I think if you're going to have any benchmark in here, then that is the benchmark that we should have. And I was under the impression that the wriggle room that developers would have in future is going to be much narrower, because according to the council's greenbelt study, there is no greenbelt left. It's all grey belt in this borough, and any land built on the grey belt has to deliver exactly the proportions and ratios. There's no viability to be taken into consideration.
I believe a lot of that will be coming in the new local plan as part of the new local plan policies. Our affordable housing protocol that we all work to at the moment will stand certainly for this delivery of this annual service delivery plan next.
Thank you. Kim.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if it rather than being so prescriptive, I wonder if it would be acceptable just to change the wording, perhaps to add, a number of affordable homes from a mix or a variety of property types.
Do you, can I ask, Linda, do you provide the figures that Lee's after anywhere else in the council papers?
I don't know if they're within council papers, but there's certainly figures that we report on, so we can break it down more if that's what members want.
That sounds a good compromise, I think. Good. Everyone happy? Good. Right. We're on page 150, 151, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 7, 58, 59, 160, we're removing 13.12, 161, 62, 63, 64, 5. Sorry, right. Oh, well done, Franny. Right. Thank you.
First of all, want to say how I actually found this really interesting to read. I must be very sad, but because it's so practical, it did interest me a lot. But I just wanted to comment on the public engagement bit with news from TNBC and the number of clicks. I'm just wondering why it says higher is better. So why have we set a lower target than what we're achieving at the moment?
Thank you for that question. And, it's something that we have been debating for several weeks because, like you, I do feel a little bit uncomfortable about setting a target that's lower than last year. The explanation is that there were a number of initiatives and programs we ran last year that were particularly good at generating clicks. And therefore, we saw an unusually large increase that our comms team doesn't believe could be sustained for the year ahead. And this document is all about ambition balanced with realism. Getting that balance right is definitely not an easy thing. And in the end, after a number of days of sort of toing and froing, we took their professional advice and accepted that perhaps the past year was an exception, and that this year, even with a number of other things going on, that maybe it wouldn't generate the number of clicks. Now, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the good news is that whatever the target is, you will be able to see the actual numbers, and you'll be able to make a judgment about whether the professional advice on this occasion was right, and the figures are lower, or whether they actually are sustained and continue at a high level in the coming year. But be assured that it was something that we all spotted and all have been debating for quite a while.
Fair enough. It just seems that maybe we need to make sure we keep it interesting and relevant and to the point so that more people do click on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna Cope.
Thank you, Chair. Is there any way that the comms team can check whether there's how many people are actually engaging, whether that's going up or down, or is it simply clicks because we want to be reaching more people? And I just wonder if there's a way we can monitor that. Thank you.
And through you, Chair, just to thank Councillor Cope. I don't know the answer to that question for sure. I fear that it is just clicks, not individual people, but it's something that we can take away and ask. Thank you.
Matt might have the answer.
I do have the answer because I actually asked the same question with regards to the local plan consultation and whether it's on, because obviously this relates to a number of different platforms, but whether it's our own website or Tunbridge and Moorland social media channels, you can still sort of look and essentially see click-throughs. Obviously on social media channels, you're reliant on social media companies, and those of us who are on them will get the same data for pages that we might have that TNBC has. I mean, that's just just the way it works. But to give you an example, if I can, in fact, I think I can share this figure. I'll just say it anyway. In the on the TMBC website, we know that in the local plan consultation, the local plan page had 36,000 views. Of those 36,000 views, they are made up from 16,000 different people, for example. So again, that's just just one page at one particular time, but an example of kind of what data we have.
If that was interesting. Right, that was 165, 166, 167. We're at the end of that. Right, moving on to the recommendations, which are on page 136. And recommendations that the report be noted, that the draft annual service delivery plan to 26-27 as set out in Annex 1 be recommended to Cabinet for approval. So I have a proposer to Clark and seconder. Thank you. Is that agreed? Thank you. And that any updated information addressing current gaps in information be considered during the Q1 reporting of the annual service delivery plan 2026-27. Is that agreed? Thank you. Right, moving on to matters for information. And we've got Linda here and Jason O'Brien online for the empty homes update. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We reported into members in June last year on empty homes, and an update was requested for this meeting as part of your work programme. So members will note at paragraph 3.5, the total number of empty properties in Tunbridge and Marlin as at 16th of December last year was 995. This is an increase on previous snapshot figures. However, it is important to remember that this is all empty, so even those that have been empty for just one day. When we look at long-term vacant empties, so those empty for longer than 6 months, the table at paragraph 3.1.3 sets out the position at the end of October 2025 across Kent as compared to the previous October in 2024. Members will see again that Tunbridge and Marlin has got an increase of 71 long-term empties, or just above 70%. There are some outliers in the figures in 3 local authority areas that we're still investigating. But when we remove them from trying to consider an average across Kent, it shows that we are just slightly above the average across the rest of local authorities. It's disappointing and frustrating to see this, but nationally there has been an upward trend in the number of empty properties across the country. And it also reinforces the importance of the decision made by members to have some dedicated resources looking at empty homes for our borough. In terms of Clarion housing, we've had some figures reported to us today that as of the end of December 2025, they had 104 voids, which was made up of 97 general needs and 7 of their Live Smart scheme properties. This is down by 13 properties from the end of September 2025, and we hope to see this as a continuing positive trend. We have asked Clarion today to provide some detailed information that sits behind those figures, so that will help us in our further understanding of the position, and we will continue to liaise with them and monitor them closely. When we last reported into this committee, the new empty homes officer had just started. 6 months on, work has been undertaken on reconciling and improving data quality on empty homes across the council. Changes to the system that we use to make that more user-friendly. Communication has been improved and correspondence has been reviewed that we send out in relation to empty homes. Our work with our external partners and agencies such as KCC's No Use Empty team, the Empty Homes Network and our other Kent local authority partners has all been picked back up and is proving to be helpful. Internally, the corporate meetings that we used to hold have been re-established. to ensure that activities are coordinated across the council on empty homes work. And looking to the future, the proposed annual service delivery plan has a new performance target around empty homes, and we will be considering our empty homes work as part of our action plan, our annual action plan within our housing strategy 2026-2027. Thank you, Chair.
Franny.
Thank you. I see that we are making further inquiries with Ashford. I hope we can find out from them what they've done that's made them so successful, because it would be great if they could share that knowledge and help all of us, wouldn't it? I'd also like to know if we ever get any feedback about houses that we've reported ourselves. As Matt will know, there's one in what was his ward once and is now mine, where the house is completely buried. You can't actually see it because it's got so much vegetation grown over it, and it's a semi-detached, so goodness knows what the poor people living next door do. And I would really love to know where it's got to and how far it's got. And obviously, if it were information that was able to be shared, it would be nice to be able to share information with people who have reported to us empty houses, so that they know that something actually is happening. Yes, we can say, yes, we've reported it, it's being looked into. It's nice to be able to give people a bit of detail, isn't it, if we're able to, obviously.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in terms of the Ashford figures, I'd like to think that they were doing something miraculous and we could all learn from it. What I suspect it probably is, going off previous experiences, they've made a change in their use classes, and what suddenly were classed as empty are no longer for whatever reason, and that's been the shift. And I suspect that may be the case for all three local authorities that have got significant changes there. But we are trying to get to the bottom of it. With regard to the property feedback, I'll take the address from you after, but yeah, I mean, our empty homes officer, now we've got that resource, is there to update members. Obviously, it will depend on the situation of the case as to what information we can provide, particularly to any wider audience.
Thank you. The enforcement papers are confidential, and I wonder if it could be reported in the same way. Perhaps someone could look at that. That would be great. Thank you. Mark.
Thank you very much, Chair. The that figure of 104 voids for Clarion Properties is obviously concerning. Have we got and it'd be good to have some kind of idea of where we're heading with that. Are they getting any better? Are they getting any worse? Because there seems to be glacial progress on some of their properties, and the most disheartening thing is when you repeatedly report their properties as being vacant, and then suddenly a for sale board appears outside that, when we know that this borough has been pretty incapable of delivering the social housing that we were talking about earlier. So are those figures it'd be good to have those figures and to see in what direction we're going. In terms of the premium that we charge for these vacant properties, what committee, how are they reviewed? Is this reviewed annually? I think when is that next going to be reviewed? Because it does seem that there's quite a big gap between the 100% premium for a year, over a year, but less than 5 years. Is there scope to, obviously, I think last time this was considered, there was a load of benchmarking so we could compare ourselves to other councils, but it does seem something that perhaps we should be looking at again to try and address a worsening situation.
Thank you. I think Paul might be able to answer.
You now put me on the spot on this one. There are 3 levels of empty home premium that are applicable. I think but the application of those premiums is discretionary. So we have taken the decision to apply those through, but the year spacing is set out in statute. and the amount that the premium that we can charge is set out in statute. So the fact that we've taken it on board, we are making the maximum benefit we can out of that.
So we can't, if we wanted, we couldn't go any higher anyway.
As far as I'm aware, no, but I will double check that with my colleagues tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
And I'll come back.
Lee.
Sorry,
Then I've got Sarah and then Kim.
Oh, sorry. It just brought something to mind when you were talking about selling off council houses. I wonder if in our service delivery plan we need to have some kind of net, or perhaps even record how many we lose. Because it's great to get 170 new, but what if we lose 180? I don't think we lose that many, but could we perhaps just record that as well, maybe?
Linda, come back. That's fine.
It's just to come back on Councillor Hood's point about the direction of Clarion. It's certainly positive in the last 3 months. It's improved. So let's hope it continues. We have asked for further information today on what that 104 is made up of. So if it's for example 80 properties that have become vacant become void in the last couple of months with people moving out, and they're in the cycle of void repairs and they're going to be back, that's very different to it being 80 that have been empty for 4, 5, 6 months longer. So we've asked for that detail to help us be absolutely clear as to where we're at. Clarion disposals, they now do notify us of all the proposed disposals. We don't get a huge amount through, but we've asked for further detail when they do send them through as to why they want to dispose of them, and an estimate of cost and what's required. And that's twofold. One is that we can challenge if we think that there's not a lot of investment needed there to keep it, but also, are we as a council interested potentially in purchasing, particularly when we've been looking at temporary accommodation through the local authority housing fund. So we are getting details of the disposals and we are keeping record of them. There's not a huge amount, and we are challenging.
Thank you. And
Chair, may I just pick up the issue about disposals and the annual service delivery plan? I mean, one of the things about the annual service delivery plan is that it's trying to measure council's performance for the actions that we take and the outcomes that we deliver. And we do have some levers around growing the number of affordable homes, i.e. additional homes. We have far fewer levers around disposals, because a registered landlord can dispose of their assets and they may or may not tell us, but if they decide that they want to do it, there's not much we can do about it. What we can do through the planning system is try and maximise the number of affordable homes being added to the system. So that's the only issue that I just urge caution on in terms of adding it as a performance indicator for us.
I think if you don't mind me just coming back on that very briefly, I think also the annual service delivery plan is about trying to measure how well the borough is doing, not just the council. I mean, you could argue that there's no point measuring fly tipping then, because we've got no way to stop people doing it. There's no, there's a whole bunch of things that are outside of our control, but we still measure them because they give us a view of how sort of almost successful the borough is. That would be my only point, but it's not a big deal, small bit.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Just going back, in Matt and my ward, there is actually 4 or 6 four properties that Clarion have put up for sale, and one of them has been vacant for over a year, and they're selling the freehold because they're flats. So are you actually aware of that particular thing in East Peckham?
That's again more information that we've asked on today. Is there, as well as the properties that are vacant that are within the reletting process, what are the ones that are vacant where they've been that their asset review and are being disposed of? So can we have a complete list of them and how long have they been empty for?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that should get picked up as part
Okay,
of that.
so you say you've got 1 empty one and then you've got 3 with tenants in, but they're selling the freehold of those leasehold properties. So we've asked for clarification of that and not received any responses yet.
Right. I don't think I've been notified of that particular circumstance. I can follow it up with them.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to the premium, I don't think it's changed in recent months, but it's actually 100% of council tax that was brought in probably about 18 months ago. So they actually paid double council tax to have an empty property sitting there. And should just mention as well that it's really difficult to do anything about properties that are sitting empty if the council tax is being paid. I know we've tried that time and time again, and because the council tax, it might be that an elderly person has gone into a care home, but if their council tax is being paid, it's really, really difficult to bring that property back into use. Thank you.
Mark.
Very briefly, I noticed there's mention of no use empty in the report, which is fantastic. It's an excellent scheme delivered by the county council. There is an issue where you have property owners who they deliberately disabled their properties to prevent the payment of business rates. We've got one in Tunbridge at the end of Church Lane, and that has been vacated, and they've deliberately put it out of action so that there's no business rates are applicable. They've removed the windows so that nobody can. And it's a technicality, isn't it? That would be something that perhaps no use empty could be brought in and to make contact with that particular landowner so that we start getting some kind of revenue from that. But that's an excellent scheme, and I know we haven't really engaged with it before, so it's good to see.
Thank you. Are we all done? Yeah, I think we are. So thank you very much, Linda, for your report, and I think everyone can just note that it's an information item. No recommendations. Oh, noted. Noted. Thank you. Right, on to the next item 12, record of decisions taken by the executive. Been lots of them. And so that's on page 177, 178. Ask you to the decision on 179, barely read it. The PAS one, Planning Advisory Service. That was a really good review, but there wasn't much member engagement. So I think they've got lots of recommendations coming forward. So I'll be looking forward to that. And Matt, did you want to say something on that?
Probably before Dennis does, but it's coming back to the Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee. I think the progress update at every meeting, then a sort of more substantial one in May. Is that right, Dennis? Around then, so it's not the last members will see of it.
It's a fixed item in the work programme now. We will get an update on each item in the March H&P, but it won't be discussed until May. So it's and as you say, there are about 14 recommendations. I had a discussion with Eleanor about to what extent were members involved, and there were members involved, but not a great many because it was a 3-4-day exercise. But that will be put right when we address the recommendations. Thank you.
Great, thanks for that update. Right, on to item 13, notice of forthcoming key decision. And if anyone's got any comments on those, 183, 184, 185. And then on to the work programme, agenda item 14. And you'll see that the section 106 is on there for next time. And it won't just be underspend, it would be several other aspects of section 106. So that's great. I don't think there are send it off. Right. So that was the work programme, and I don't think there are any urgent items at 15, at 16. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Yeah, the forward decisions. Notice the forthcoming key decisions. February
Right.
to
Okay.
February
let's
to
go back.
May.
Yeah.
Lease arrangements for Tunbridge Farm sports ground. Is that for the? Does that not come to a scrutiny committee? Or rather than rather than going straight
What page
to a
is that?
decision. 185.
Okay.
Does that relate to the football club?
Matt.
Sorry, I thought the meeting had finished, so I actually turned my laptop off. But I think that regards to which committee will be a part 2 report, so I'm mindful about saying too much in a public session on that at this point. Not to be evasive, but it's in part 2 for a reason, because it's a lease arrangement. So
yeah,
I don't want to I don't want to say too much right now that might compromise the reasons it's in part 2 in the first place. Sorry to be a bit like that, but I just thought it worth just explaining that at this point.
No, that's fine. It does say on the papers, but that's great. Thank you. There were no urgent items, and the meeting finished at 9:56. Thank you very much for your attendance and perseverance.